How you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah, we're gonna start. No. Wait. There's no. If he's president, I would say vote on one. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Isaac Heschel. I serve as the chairperson of this wonderful committee. I hope everyone had a great Passover and Easter holiday, and I'm sure everybody's looking forward to spring and summer ahead. Anita, who is going to be kind enough to do the roll call? You want to do it? Go for it.
I used to be the, good evening, everyone. Yes. I'm resuming a role that I used to have. So I will be calling everyone's name and asking you just to say present or hello or yes. Representing Speaker Adrian Adams, Tyrell Hankerson, or Lynette Shelburne Barfield. Representing Mayor Eric Adams, Valerie Vasquez, or Christian Williams. Here. Hello, welcome. Amber Adler is excused. Is someone here to represent the Honorable Brian Cunningham? Chairperson Isaac Heschel. Here. Representing Columbia University, Dr. Christopher Weimer or Skylar Ross? Skylar Ross, forgive me. Yes? Melissa Del Valle Ortiz? She's excused. Okay. Representing the Honorable Vito J. Fasella, Nicholas Thompson, or Tiffany Arguello Carlson? First Vice Chairperson, Gregory Hambrick. Yes, good evening, Brett. Representing the Honorable Vanessa Gibson, Nelson Palacios, or Angel Dowd Jr. Representing the Honorable Brad Lander, Stephanie Campanja Wheaton, or Joshua Pacheco. They may be coming, right? Representing the Honorable Mark Levine, Mariela Ali.
Present.
Great. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Our Secretary, Grace Lavaglio, is not here. Paul Mai.
Here.
Good evening, Paul. Next page. The Honorable Christopher Marte, is there a representative? Gideon Dunkley, Morris Heights Health Center. Mari Moss. Here. Welcome. Joseph Pierre, Neighborhood Housing Services of Staten Island. Nope. Clevis Pena.
Here.
Did I pronounce that right? Clevis, thank you. Welcome, please. Diletta Pina.
She's excused.
I'm sorry?
She's excused.
Sorry. Representing Roxanne Persaud, Alex Cuevas, or Christine Delias. Delias?
I think Christine is online.
Yes?
I am here.
She's here.
Great. Our second vice chairperson, Donovan Swanson, representing the Honorable Antonio Reynoso. And third vice chairperson, Susan Taneman, representing the Honorable Donovan Richards. Jackie Roa Adams. No? Representing Honorable Althea Stevens, Lamont Carolina, and sorry, Tyreek Israel? Tyreek Israel. No?
No.
Christopher Toomer.
Here, present.
Welcome, Christopher. Representing the Honorable Sandra Ong, Shane Miller, or Jin Wu. Representing UJ Federation of Jewish Philanthropy, New York City, Abby Rubin Pope, or Faith Behum.
She's
Here. Hi.
Is this Abby or Faith?
Abby, yes.
Welcome, okay. Thanks. Representing United Neighborhood Houses, Nora Moran, or Kate Connolly. Samantha Moyal, representing UPS. Hi, thank you. Linda Walters. Welcome, Linda. Representing the Honorable Jumani Williams, Elizabeth Kennedy.
I'm covered for Trump.
What is your name?
One second. One second.
Welcome, okay. Thanks. And Hannah Zarzar.
She's here.
Welcome. Okay. The roll is completed. Thanks.
Thank you. We achieved quorum. Excellent. So now, get some work done. We'll begin elect of Reverend Ruben D. Cruz from Region 16, Queens, NDA 1, 8, and 9. There's a very services are Community Agency for Senior Citizens, Latino American Intercultural Alliance, Jurican Inc., was part of the NAB, part of the Office of the Mayor of the city's Office of Faith-Based and Community Partnerships, Central Queens Political Club, and many other volunteer board experiences. It gives me great pleasure to recognize and entertain a motion to accept Reverend Cruz as a member of the CAB. Motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Marcos. Seconded?
Greg.
Seconded by Greg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Congratulations and welcome aboard. Reverend, if you would like to make a brief statement to the board.
Thank you all. I'm honored to be a part of this organization and keeping involved. That's all I'm about. So thank you.
Short and sweet, we like that. Congratulations and welcome. In the board packet, you should have had the minutes for the CAB meeting in full on January 30th. I'm sure that you took time to review it, so we'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes. Motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Mary Moss, second by? Speak up. Second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. We'll now ask the Senior Budget Director, Community Development and Grants Management, Artis Sanmugan, to give us her always impressive and articulate report. Artis?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that introduction. Good evening. My name is Artis Sanmugan. I'm the Senior Director for Grants Management and Revenue at DYCD, and I'd like to introduce our newly hired Director of the same unit, Joanna Clinton, sorry. Joanna Simmons is an old friend of mine. She'll be up here. We'll be rotating, and she'll be up here eventually. So please be kind, and she'll do great. So I'm going to be presenting the financial report for this meeting today. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to larger. Okay, so for city fiscal year 25, the CSBG budget is just short of $36 million, $37.5 million. And DYCD awards the CSBG funds in 3 major buckets. The bulk of the funds goes to our program contracts. Those are the direct services that DYCD awards to our providers for them to provide those services on our behalf. And that's coming in at just under $29 million, and that's about 80% of the award. The next category is audit contractual services, and this bucket of funds supports the direct services and the program contracts. And that's just under $2 million, and it's about 6%. And rounding out the award is the personal services for DYCD staff, most of us who are here today. Thank you. That's coming in at just over $5 million, or $5.1 million, and that's 14% of the award. As I mentioned, the bulk of the funds goes to our direct service programs, and the biggest one is in Neighborhood Development Group, which has a budget of just under $16 million, and that represents 55% of the program contracts. Our next largest program is the SYP program. None of those funds goes to providers, it only pays participant wages, and we just under $4.4 million, and that's 15% of the program contracts budget. We also have immigration programs at $2.7 million, a new adult literacy RFP that's coming in at $2.2 million, the Fatherhood Initiative, 2.7, and adolescent literacy just under $900,000. I'm not going to talk about the invoices that our providers have submitted. For the NDA group, they have submitted just under $2 million, and that's 12% of their budget. The SYP program happens only in the first 3 months of the city fiscal year, so we always have 100% of it by this time of the year. So we have fully spent down the SYP budget of $4.4 million. Immigration program is coming in at 25% of their budget with spending. Adult literacy, the new RFP that just started, only.
I'm going to have to cut out something though, because in 10 minutes I have LAAC, which is language, they deal with language access for voting. And I'm like, wow.
Testing me. Yes, so back to the invoices submitted by our programs. Adult literacy, a new RFP, makes sense, so they're 3% at this point in time. That's very regular for new programs starting. Fatherhood is at 13%, along with adolescent literacy at 13%. However, what DYCD has paid to these programs is much higher because DYCD, at the start of each city fiscal year, provides an advance to each of our providers so that they can help with start up their programs. So we have paid 48% of the NDA budget. We have paid 43% of the immigration budget, 27% of the adult literacy budget, 60% of the fatherhood budget, 50% of adolescent literacy, and as I mentioned before, SYP, all the funds goes to participant wages. So overall, we have paid 55% of the program contracts, whereas providers have submitted invoicing totaling 26%, leaving a balance of just under $13 million for the rest of the year. For the other categories, technical assistance is the biggest pot of money in the auto contractual services at $1.2 million. We have expenditures to date of 41%. And unlike the program contracts, none of the spending that happens in the auto contractual services category have advanced. So whatever is invoiced, that's the amount that's paid. So you'll notice that those numbers are exactly the same. We have expenses next in the AOTPS category of about 52% of the budget. And central insurance program, we've paid fully 100% of that. For the DYCD staff, personal services, we've paid 47% of the budget to date. Joanna and I, in fact, Joanna only at this moment, is working on the current cost allocation for the third quarter, so we'll have those numbers soon by the time we have a next meeting here. If we compare where we were to the last meeting on January 30th, our providers increased their invoice submissions by 31%. As of that date, we had $5.8 million in expenses, and today we have $7.6 million. On the payment side, we've increased payments by 21%. We are comparing $13.1 million to $15.9 million, a difference of $2.8 million. We've also increased expenses compared to the last meeting. Auto contractual services more than doubled from $337,000 to $840,000. And for personal services, it definitely doubled. We now have 2 quarters data in the personal services, whereas when we met the last time, we had 1 quarter's data. So that is the report. I'm happy to answer any questions folks have. Thank you.
Oh, she has.
Is that going? Okay. Thank thank you for your report, very thorough as always.
Thank you.
Really quick question, under program contracts, percentage of payments, how does DYCD determine the percentage that it's paid? Is it in relation to the number of invoices received, or like why is there a difference? Immigration programs receives 43%, Fatherhood Initiative receives 60%.
So, it's a great question, thank you. The payments in this section here you're seeing are the additions of advances DYCDs have paid, as well as the invoices that the providers have submitted. So the total number there is invoices paid and advances. DYCD generally awards an advance of between 25 to 30% to all DYCD providers. A few years ago, they had to opt in to get that advance. They no longer need to opt in. Every provider will be getting that advance once the new city fiscal year starts. So they have that advance, and every month they're allowed, some do, some don't, to submit an invoice. For the months of July through December, let's assume a provider has a budget straight number of $120,000, right? So in theory, they'll be spending about $10,000 a month. So at the start of the city fiscal year, we give them $30,000. And once July ends, they submit an invoice to us for $10,000. We pay the $10,000 fully, so they've now been paid $40,000. And let's say they submit a $10,000 invoice all the way through December, we pay them fully that $10,000 every month. However, come January through June, we start to recoup the advance. So if they submit an invoice in January for $10,000, we may pay them $5,000 instead, because now we're recouping that advance. We give them a $30,000 advance, we're paying them $5,000 rather than $10,000 in July. It means that the advance that they now owe us is $25,000 versus $30,000. So for the months, in theory, they receive a $30,000 advance and $60,000 by the end of December if they submit their invoices on time. So they receive $90,000 by December, and then we start to recoup that $30,000 advance towards as we go from January through June.
Any other questions for Ernest? Go ahead.
Hi artists, quick question. Thank you again for your presentation. Seeing adult literacy at 27% at this time of year compared to the other contracts, is that typically standard, or is it because of the new contract that we're seeing a difference? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, so first thing is the new RFP was rolled out after the new city fiscal year started, right? So unlike the other programs, they did not start in July. The other programs started on July. Very often when a new RFP happens, we generally have new providers. One program ended and providers, they might be new providers or existing providers who have a new contract. There's always a startup phase, and it also takes a little while for a contract to be registered, right? Given the city's procurement process, registration of a contract takes a few months generally. And since this award was not made before city fiscal year 25 started, it filtered into starting later in city fiscal year 25. That means that maybe a lot of providers at this point in time did not have their contracts fully registered in order to receive an advance, because we can't pay funds to a provider if they don't have a registered contract. So that's probably what's happening here. Contracts are probably still in the stage of fully being registered, but as contracts are being registered, we're paying them their advances, and a few have even submitted invoices so far.
Okay. Question. Hi. How y'all doing?
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. So I have a question. So, could I?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do the hand thing, so. But anyway, what you said, once a contract is registered, which I understand now, and you said something about payout, immediate, loan, or how?
Advance.
Once the contract is registered, what is the time frame?
Sorry, so once a contract is registered, DYCD pays an advance on that contract to the provider before they start serving the participants. that they're contracted to do. We give them an advance so that they can start hiring folks, start renting a space, whatever they need to do to start up in order to provide the services.
Right, okay, okay.
Can I follow up, and this is just maybe similar to, sorry. Yeah, no, very quick, just, maybe as a follow-up, it would be helpful for us to know, we see 37 awards, I would love to know how many are not registered at this time, and where they land as far as NDA is concerned, similar to the question we asked in our last meeting, but what you were able to provide, because we know the lack of having a contract registered is a common problem, and we know that a lot of these providers are being impacted. So it would be great to just understand the scope between all the awards and where the gap is, and knowing where they are respective to New York City. So that's just my request.
So to clarify, you would like the same information on a contract by contract basis that we provided for the NDA program?
Specifically for the adult literacy, because we're seeing this gap.
Okay, so for adult literacy, you would like us to provide a list of what we've paid the providers to date.
And who's not registered of the awards.
Right, so we wouldn't pay somebody they're not registered. So what we'll do is we'll provide a list of the adult literacy providers, and if they have a payment, it means that they're registered. Okay, we can do that.
And similar to Donovan, my question was regarding last time, could the budget be broken down by NDA with the total funds received by each provider? So I wanted to get a follow-up on that.
We did provide
Oh, it
that.
says C chart. Okay, I see the chart now. Okay, thank you.
You're
thank
welcome.
you. And then also on the invoices, how long typically when a contractor does an invoice are the funds then dispersed?
At one time, DYCD used to win an annual award for being the fastest paying city agency. Yes. Our senior director, Linda Pantages, was personally congratulated a few times. However, that was when we worked in a CCMS system and the HHS system. As you all know, we're now in a new system called Passport. I am not quite sure what our rates are at this point, but I could reach out to the head of our accounts payable unit and get that information for you. Absolutely. All good? Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you, Otis. We will now entertain a motion to accept the financial program quality report.
Motion,
You guys are quick today. We have the first by Donovan, seconded by Chris Toomer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Mike is in? Yep. Okay. Gives me great pleasure to ask the Honorable Deputy Commissioner of Community Development, Mike Bobbitt, to present the Commissioner's report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone online. It's my pleasure to present the Commissioner's report. I'll speak briefly about a few things that have happened most recently since the last CAB meeting, and a few things that are on the way. During the fiscal report, Artis was talking about some of the newer programs. One of the programs that's relatively new, so we're in the second year of the adolescent literacy portfolio. And so I just want to send you very glad tidings on behalf of that program. One of the things that was important to us in the program and the program integration evaluation team when we reimagined that program, leaning on the old model but wanting to build on both literacy and numeracy, financial literacy and media literacy. Those programs seem to be leaning into that and doing a great job of that. And we have some anecdotal evidence of that because under this cohort, we started bringing the providers together for a special event. And the staff lovingly call that, Versus Arts and Vibes. So Versus Arts and Vibes last year was held during April, which is National Poetry Month. And the kids had original pieces that they recited, and it was a wonderful event. And so I thought the team was going to want to do that again, but they brought the providers together and said, well, we asked you to do that last time. What do you want to do this time? And so in this very room and in some of the conferences upstairs during spring break, we had over 60 middle schoolers here. Yes, doing a combination of different types of events that show how the providers weave literacy into their everyday learning experiences. So there was a culinary competition here, and we had two of our staff, the Deputy Commissioner for Youth Services, judging who did the best tacos, where obviously the kids were learning about healthy eating, and they were describing the ingredients that went in, they were cooking on the spot, all this, it was beautiful. That was one competition. Then upstairs, they were doing debate prep before they came down here. There was a science competition, but I was so enthralled between the culinary and the debate that I didn't even get to the science competition. And then there was a fourth group that did a series of spoken word and personal testimonies. One of the highlights for me of this whole event is all the kids were recognized for their participation, but the debate was about whether kids should be able to access their phones in school. I'm going to tell you, the gold medal winner of that debate presented her arguments in Spanish, and we had a translator on site, and it was just clear, like she was just dope. It was really, really fantastic. So I'm just really heartened by the work the providers do, how the kids clapped it up for each other, and they really showed up. It was a wonderful event. And one of my team, who I won't name in this regard, because when I first said we were going to do this, it's sort of, I like to keep the trains running on time, but like special event stuff I don't know about. So when we did the debris, I love this event. I can't wait till next year. Okay, it only took 2 years. Now you see the vision. So we're trying to cross. Yes, you had a comment.
What was the argument? What was her argument?
If I distill her argument, she was one of the ones that was in favor. And if I remember correctly, do you remember which team won? I'll follow up with you later on which team won. But she was the one that was a proponent of it. And two of our arguments were the distractions during school time and the fact that even outside of school time, you can work within the structure of the school day and the teachers to get your learning. Yeah, very compelling arguments were made on both sides of the argument, I have to say. So that's a word I wanted to give about adolescent literacy. One of the other big pieces of news, and it's also, I'm prompted to make sure I share it because artists talked about it, is fatherhood. And I'm spoiled sometimes, I get to talk about fatherhood a lot, but we have what I consider to be extremely significant news. And I don't think we were able to report this at the last meeting, so I think this is new news. So if you followed the mayor in January when he did the State of the City, one of the things he talked about was ensuring that New York City is a family-friendly city. And so that entails new and additional work for DYCD, including for this portfolio, the dramatic expansion of the Fatherhood Initiative. So if you looked at Artist Historic numbers, when we get to the next fiscal year, we'll be able to report, instead of serving about 1,500 dads a year, we'll be able to serve 3,000 dads a year. So again, extremely significant for the size of that portfolio to be able to double. We recently released the request for proposals, and that request for proposal has closed. So at this moment in time, I'm not at liberty to get into the details, but the procurement team has told me it appears that we had sufficient number of responses. So we are at present on target, and our target is to launch new programs in January. So in the coming year, you'll hear more about that. And this is just a side note, but when Artist was talking and your question earlier about rates of spending, so not in this fiscal year, so it'll be on the other side of July, but that means we will be extending our current, and they know this, we'll be extending our current fatherhood contracts for 6 months to make sure there's no gap in services, and then the middle of the city fiscal year is when we will launch the new model. So that's the word on the new model, but the other thing that I wanted to say related to that is, since the mayor made this announcement, the commissioner has prevailed upon us, encouraged us to make sure that the entire city knows about all of this. And I say that because the increase of the Fatherhood Initiative is very significant. But pretty much immediately following the State of the City in February, and I'm sure Anita and team sent you the information about the citywide Fatherhood Symposium. So I go back a little bit, under the last administration, the Mayor's Children's Cabinet was created to look at infant fatalities and to bring different agencies together to problem solve and see where there were gaps in the system that led to children dying. Over time, the Children's Cabinet has shifted and increased its focus to look at other topical areas, and under the Adams administration, now, one of the pillars of the city's work is advancing responsible fatherhood. So I'm happy to say the Children's Cabinet loves DYC and loves DYC fatherhood because they see the scale and the scope and the breadth of what we've been doing. And so for the past several months, we've been having either weekly or bi-weekly meetings to help advise the Children's Cabinet from our perspective, and also to ensure that their table remains broad and robust. So some of the other city agencies that we were already meeting with, we're also meeting with in the context of the Children's Cabinet. And when you do see the RFP, and when you do see us go to the next model, one of the things we've done, as a courtesy to the proposers, like a lot of RFPs, you'll have required linkages. So they do have required linkages, but there are some linkages where we say you don't even need to submit this as a proposal because it's so important to the city. DYC will create the linkage, and whoever gets the award will assign that to everybody. So that means the Office of Child Support Services and the Department of Probation and Child Welfare and some of the cast of characters that you would expect. So we knew we wanted to do that, and now with the expansion of funding, my team's been meeting regularly with those teams as well as the planning and program integration team to talk about expanding referrals from all of these city agency partners, even while we know the proposers will have their own, hyperlocal relationships. Oh, I should add, since I think it's important to talk about One DYC and the Office of Neighborhood Safety, those are among the required partnerships that we assign to. So we think it's very important if you're doing a fatherhood program that you're also talking to programs where prevention, intervention, desistance from violence, that you're going to have some conversations about healthy notions of masculinity, and you're going to want to have cross-referrals. So we have those as required linkages, just like our community centers, our beacons, and our cornerstones. So obviously I'm excited, and the whole team is very excited about this model. And because of all of this energy, even for DYC, is very involved and very involved in a lot of special events. So the symposium was actually very significant. The mayor came and presented and spoke there, and Richard Bury, who's a former deputy mayor of the city and the head of the Robin Hood Foundation, he was at the meeting. We had representatives from Child Welfare and ACS and Corrections and a bunch of other places, and a bunch of folks from academia who want to find other ways to help. I mean, University, Wisconsin and Madison was there. NDRC does a boatload of fatherhood research. We're in regular conversation still with some of these folks about NYU, about policy as well as practice. In terms of special events though, you know how we always brag about doing a Father's Day event? It's always the day before Father's Day so we can leave fathers alone on Father's Day, but I had a meeting upstairs. We have 4 or possibly 5 events happening in June around Father's Day because we're also supporting the other agencies and their efforts and their initiative, and many things are going to be open. So some will be for the participants, some will be wide open for the city. Those of you that follow Councilmember Riley, you may be familiar with Dad Gang. We're working with Dad Gang. I had a meeting right there. Oh, I'm gonna have at least 300 dads on our own, but we're opening this up to you guys too. I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll bring our dads, your dads, and part of it is about having the community come together on its own. I don't want to go too long on this. So stay tuned, but I need to let you know now because June it'll be too late by the board meeting. So the invitations are coming. Anita and team will make sure you get your nomination form for community moms and dads, and you have to turn this around. So any mother or mother figure, any father or father figure that you want to be considered, nominations are open until I think early next week. So try to get it in the next few to anyone who's a New Yorker. And this is the 3rd year since we expanded that campaign from just moms to doing moms and dads together. So that is a wide open, all New Yorkers can participate event. And I won't bore you with the details, but a lot of these activations are really meant to lean into where we're going in January. One thing I should say, I would be remiss if I didn't say, with this expansion of funding, it means the agency will be able to use a combination of the federal community service block grant funds that we talk about and city tax levy dollars, which means any dad can enroll in this program. Like we use CSBG eligibility, but people who are quote unquote over income can still be enrolled because we have the other funding stream. And for the first time, we will regularly and routinely be inviting custodial dads as well as non-custodial dads. So I can't wait for this mix of dads who have different immediate needs to be able to network with one another, sort of in these hyper-local environments about what's best for my community, how as we as dads can come together, etc. So I have somebody else present on this next time because I go on too long about fatherhood, but I'm glad to be able to share this news with you. So I said I would say some things that have happened leading up to now and some things that will happen. It's 2025, so that means it's been 3 years since we did the last community needs assessment. So that means it's about time for us to do the next community needs assessment. I heard laughter, I heard some assent, I heard a little grumbling too. I do want to remind this group that through your efforts and through all of the NEB efforts, the last community needs assessment was the biggest the agency had ever done with a dramatic increase. I want to recognize that under the leadership of our colleague Andrew Miller and the whole NABLU team being part of InterGov, we have even more robust plans. I'm afraid to commit to a number in front of you right now. But we're talking good game about advancing some of the things that we've learned. So we really want to normalize the use of the online survey. And Anita was just sharing the other day about how once NEB members got used to the online survey, as important it is to have paper, they started normalizing and preferring and using the online survey, which makes it easy for respondents and also makes it really easy for the program integration evaluation team, because once the survey is scanned and it's in, it's in. You don't need to feed paper, you don't need to hire somebody else to feed, right? So we will next month be having trainings for NEB members. CAB members, of course, are welcome to be retrained. There's a lot of familiar faces. People did it 3 years ago, so it'll be a quick refresher for you. We talked this morning about tying to the end of the training meetings about canvassing, because everybody really needs to have a plan. If you're in a particular neighborhood, and we remind you there's 4 different neighborhood tabulation areas within your NDA, somebody got to go to this one, and to this one, and to this one, and this one, because we don't want to disenfranchise anyone within a community. We really want to ensure we have representation from the very young and from our older adults. And because we've had these conversations with DFTA about that since the last one, I'm sure we're going to do well on the older adults. We're going to make sure that we get the younger adults. So I credit not just InterGov, but our planning and program integration. When we had our internal kickoff, we had every deputy commissioner in the meeting. So the youth services folk, the youth workforce folk, I should just say workforce now, and special partnerships, all strategic partnerships, all in the same meeting. We're all trying to pull in the same direction. So more to come, stay tuned. Do respond to your emails when you're called off CAB meeting schedule about this, because it sounds mellow right now in April, but in a month, we're gonna be doing the needs assessment, okay? Which is like leave no stone unturned, leave no one disenfranchised in all the languages and all the things like we were used to doing. And we'll be able to brag later. Okay. Next month is our NEB appreciation event. And so we've started getting really good at bringing all the NEBs together and eliminating the silos. So since we've been doing that, we've done it in this room, we've done it at Trinity Wall Street, we're going back to Trinity Wall Street. That should be a very exciting and engaging event. And we will also be talking about the community needs assessment. And we will also talk about something else, which I'm going to only speak to very briefly. When we engage, and I'm mentioning it specifically to this, I'll come back to that. That's not in the commissioner's report, never mind that. I'll come back to that before I close. It will be a very great event. Let me see if there's anything major that I'm missing. That's the stuff we said we were going to do. All right. The last thing I'll say is safe growth, which I think I've presented onto this group before. There's just a quick reminder, we were able to leverage the use of our community service block grants as well as state funding the agency had this past year from the Department of Criminal Justice Services. We were able to pick 3 neighborhoods, Harlem, Far Rockaway, and I'm blanking out exactly which neighborhoods in the Bronx. Say again? Williamsburg and HS. We brought those folks together and it's been gangbusters. It's just been incredible. You know, you were in the Harlem thing. Yeah, exactly, right. Just the technology to simply be able to give tools to our community residents who already know what they perceive to be the most acute problems in their neighborhood, and to give them time to problem solve together as to how concretely and tactically over the short term they want to address those concerns. Fantastic. One of many illustrations, one of the things that was near and dear to me is one of the neighborhoods identified the scaffolding at a private building and have already engaged the developers, the owners of that private building. And so just candidly, I don't know how quickly the city would have got around to like, we're gonna have a meeting with this private, the residents, the community, we're gonna go right now. And so they've already engaged them about safety concerns. So this is what happens when you really engage the community on the community's own terms. And I can't wait to see what happens. There's a training today and tomorrow about how to use an online tool so they can map the different things that they're observing in the community and then be able to visualize it later on. And the commissioner is so excited about this. Let me change my schedule. I want to try to get the World Trade Center. So he says today he's going to be down there tomorrow and pat him on the back and look at what they're doing. He's very, very excited that we've really manifested as the one DYC he has expected us to be, and it's all hands on deck making that happen. I can go on a few things, but those are the key things that I wanted to make sure I hit. And we will see one another certainly by June, where we have further updates. And that concludes the commissioner's report. Are there any questions?
I do have one question.
Okay.
I love the fatherhood initiative. I think it's a wonderful, as far as the fatherhood initiative comes out.
It's on now.
Okay.
That it is a great preventative measure and something that could be done to help undergird and support fathers. And then we have this wonderful children's cabinet, which I think is amazing. But you don't have anything for the mothers. And I just feel like, for families, there's a father, also there are mothers too, and, they want to be a part of this. So what can be done about including mothers besides the community moms, dads event? What kind of programmatic, processes can DYC do for mothers?
Sure.
They need support too.
I'll give you a brief response, and then I'll ask you to make sure that we give a more robust response at the next meeting. So one, I think it is oftentimes the case that mothers are already being considered in a lot of, child and family development initiatives and programs. So several of the conversations that I have been in about including fathers when we're talking about families. So that's a point, like there's a larger point that we can unpack. However, related specifically to what's going on for moms, Commissioner, Deputy Mayor for Strategic Initiatives, and I and a few other folks, we were talking about fatherhood and we were talking about some other stuff. And one of the things that was raised recently, there are a lot of girl and women initiatives, and I haven't been reporting on this, but we've also been meeting with a lot of folks too. So I may have reported that we've met several times with the New York City Young Men's Initiative, and I may have failed to mention that there's also NYC Her Future. And so those offices are actually adjacent to one another at City Hall. So while there's a team that continues to do the work, I guess since the Bloomberg administration, of looking at disparate impact and policies on Black and Latino boys and young men, there's the newer group that's working actively with girls and young women. And this is not a CSBG thing, but as an illustration of our partnership, in our discretionary portfolio, we have 27 programs that do young women leadership development. And so in the same spirit of bringing everybody together, everybody that was working with adolescents, we said, you should invite all your girls and young women to this event that we will do. And we had council members speak to them about leadership. We had panel discussions with her. And Her Future was there and helped sponsor it. And they got so excited about how well it went. They're like, all right, we want you to do this, we want you to do it. So we're going to continue to work on that. I want to stop there so that I can come back with some other stuff, because I don't want to suggest that there's nothing happening. I know that I have another meeting, my team has another meeting rather, coming up soon with the Nurse Family Partnership and the Newborn Home Visiting Program at the Health Department. And so that to me is an example that there is targeted work to try to surround resources around women as mothers. And our discussions were, and then they paused for a while, and now that we've come back to discussion about how do fatherhood advocates and programs plug into and help create stronger mutual referrals, given what this lens is, given what your explicit lens is, which is pregnancy through child's second birthday. That's fantastic, So we want to be very intentional about that. Yeah. And there's some other discussions that are in very formative stages that, perhaps we'll be able to report on later. Okay, are there any other questions? So before I leave, so this is not part of the commissioner's report, I just wanted to share the thing I thought about, and Andrea and I talked about this. when we do the NAB convening, and when we convene with groups like this, it's important for us, and I want to make sure I strike the right tone, to remind folks who don't work in government, who believe in what we're doing, we need to be very thoughtful that we're doing the public education and letting people know the value of all the work that we do. This is a CSBG meeting, so obviously there's an emphasis about CSBG. You can extend that. I gave a discretionary example, but the agency does the work that we feel is important, you feel it's important. I just invite you to consider that, because it seems like generally we live in a climate and a time where people who don't work in government may want to make sure that they have that information at the ready, and that's really, that's why I put this in the commissioner's report. But it's the time for us to remind folks of that sort of thing. So perhaps we'll bring that up again in June. Certainly we want to invite the NAB members to think, you spend your time with us, you know, have we given you all the information you need when you're conversing with other people in your community about our value, our worth. So that's it then. Thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that exceptional report. We'll now entertain a motion to accept the Commissioner's report. Motion to accept. Linda, seconded by Jackie Rowe Adams. Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you very much. Moving along, the executive committee met on March 27th. It began at 6:16. We discussed the agenda for tonight's meeting. The committee chairpeople presented the committee reports. There was no old business, there was no new business, and we adjourned the meeting at 6:30. It gives me great pleasure to ask the first vice chair, Greg Hambrick, to present the governance committee report, and then to do the election for the CAB parliamentarian position.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. The Governance Committee met on Wednesday, March 26th. Short agenda. We discussed the low-income sector vacancies, which you see in your agenda. Currently 8 vacancies where the staff is working to search for candidates for that vacancy. We know about the one public sector vacancy with Jeffrey Aubrey retiring. And then for the NDAs and NABs, there's various elections taking place. A couple of candidates pulled out their candidacy for personal reasons, so that is ongoing as well. And as the chair mentioned, we have the open parliamentarian role that was vacated by Rhonda Joseph, which we will be voting on right after voting on this agenda. Linda Walters, who previously served on the executive committee, has put forth her name as a candidate for that role. So far she's a candidate. I will remind everyone that you can put your name forward as a candidate as part of the slate at this meeting if you're interested in being considered. 6 members were absent from the meeting. We did have quorum. There was no old business or new business in the meeting agenda. The meeting adjourned at 6:25. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. We'll now entertain a motion to accept the governance committee report. Dominic, seconded by? Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we will now vote on the CAB parliamentarian role. As I mentioned, Linda Walters, who is here, is a candidate for that position. I would like to ask before we move forward, is there anyone else who would like to put their name forward as a candidate for that role at this time? All right. So, we will now vote. Since Linda is the only candidate for the role, we can certainly do it by a show of hands. Can I entertain a motion to elect Linda Walters as the CAB parliamentarian? It's been properly motioned by Susie Tannenbaum,
Second, Ladies Pena.
second by Ms. Pena. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposing? Those abstaining? There being none, let me congratulate Linda Walters on being candidate for parliamentarian. Would you like to say any words?
No, well, just that, I'm working for DYCD and for the community. That's my goal, that's my aim, and, that's really basically it, but thank you again for leadership. For me, and that's it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Linda. It's great to have you back on the board and on the executive committee. You were sorely missed, so it's great to have you here. Moving along, it gives me great pleasure to ask Donovan to present the program committee report.
Thank you. All right.
Recording stopped.
For the record, it has to be recorded, so I have to wait.
Put the recording. No, it's not.
It's not good.
It's still recording? Okay, great. So program committee, we met Wednesday, March 19th. Wow. We had a great presentation from Riseboro Community Partnerships. It was an honor to hear from a Brooklyn provider representing the Brooklyn Borough President. I'm very familiar with their work serving Bushwick. They talked about their adult education programs, what they offer, the success of the students, the services that they offer. I believe your packets include their presentation, so I will not necessarily go into full detail, but if folks have questions, they're definitely encouraged to ask. I will say, following their presentation, we did talk about some of their current challenges, which I think is relevant for us to discuss, given the current climate, and how, while DYCD does allow at least 60% of their classes to be online, this is a unique population that might be experiencing some challenges and feel deterred from receiving services as migrants, as folks that don't speak, So that we kind of discussed that and discussed some of the models and how they're working around that. But I do think for any of our contracted providers, it's relevant and something we should be asking in all the spaces, given our climate. So we spent some time talking about that and concluded around, is it in the report? Around 6:33 p.m. So that is the program committee report.
Thank you very much, Donovan. I'll entertain a motion to accept the program committee report. Motion to accept. Greg Hamrick, seconded by Brian Moss. Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. We'll now ask the chairperson of the Strategic Partnership Committee to present her report. I would like to thank her for the excellent job she did with the roll call earlier.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening again, everyone. So the summary of the Strategic Planning Committee meeting is right after the PowerPoint that was just mentioned. The Strategic Partnership Committee meeting took place on Thursday, March 20th. And we had a presentation from Diora Lunsford, Senior Program Manager at the DYCD. She spoke about the Summer Youth Employment Program and focused on, or reminded us that, that SYEP offers special initiatives really to be inclusive of youth who may be from marginalized communities. So she talked about two initiatives, Emerging Leaders, which is really geared toward youth facing barriers to employment, including those facing homelessness, living in foster care, or having different abilities. And the other initiative she reminded us of is SYEP Pride for LGBTQ plus youth. And she also provided some data on the effects of youth employment on crime. In other words, just reinforcing the importance of SYEP and programs like SYEP in reducing, socially negative activities and giving youth alternatives and opportunities to be productive members of society. So that was excellent. We then heard from Melissa Del Valle Ortiz, a longtime CAB member, who told us all about the Congressional Award for Civic Engagement. And she told us that youth or teenagers, age 14 and up, can volunteer in their community and become eligible to participate in a congressional ceremony that happens every year in June. And she gave us the website to find out more about that opportunity. And she also said that these youth are potential NAB members, so we should really encourage them to participate in this Congressional Award for Civic Engagement. Later in the meeting, I mentioned another opportunity for youth. The National Supermarket Association, NSA, offers a scholarship for rising seniors, and as you'll see in the summary, the deadline is June 7th, so if you know of youth that would be eligible, please take a look at that. And then we've talked about NAB membership, and as of March 20th, a total of 252 NAB seats were filled, leaving 302 seats vacant. And with the elected official appointments, as of that time, 62 elected official seats were filled, and 184 elected official seats were still vacant. So we have long discussions about what we can do, how we can proactively encourage our elected officials to help fill these vacancies. We've been talking about this during this meeting, and I realize this is kind of new business, but I just want to flag for our deputy commissioner. We were so excited to hear about the upcoming NAB appreciation event, and we were wondering whether it would be possible to invite elected officials to that event, particularly, as Donovan said, the elected officials who appointed those NAB members, to remind them how important it is to make sure that they help us, fill the vacancies. Thank you. Yeah. And that was our meeting, and it ended at 6:02 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you for that report. We'll entertain a motion to accept the Strategic Partnerships Committee report. Motion to accept. Seconded by Linda Walters. All those in favor say aye. Anyone saying no? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Old business? None that I'm aware of. New business? Our next CAB meeting will be Thursday, June 12th. Hopefully by then there will be air conditioning working here in the room.
Hopefully it'll be hot.
Yeah, I think it'll be warm enough to need the air conditioning. Mike, was there anything else you wanted to add before we're good? Anita, anything to add?
Yeah, just want to remind everybody that the committee meetings are online, so you don't have to come here to participate. So, there's a lot more information that we can put in the reports and the minutes. So it's good to hear how the program is doing. And also, the strategic partnership usually deals with people here at BYCD, and we learn about the other programs that are happening in BYCD. So I suggest everybody can come once, twice, maybe, and see. And then with the NAB appreciation dinner, after I do the final count, which is going to be this week, we have some open seats. We will let you know, and we'd like to attend.
Thank you, Anita. Anyone have any questions? So without any further ado, before I adjourn, I want to thank everyone for taking time to make sure that we achieve quorum. I know some people traveled a great distance to be here, and we greatly appreciate them doing it in order for us to achieve what we needed to achieve today. So thank you all very much. Thank you, DYCD and its staff, for encouraging our folks continuously to make sure that they show up. So thank you, staff, and thank you all for being here and for the great things you do. It is now 7:15 p.m. and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Chris Toomer, seconded by Morris. You sure? Yes. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Very good. Good to see you, my brother.
Yeah, I didn't know that.